It died for good, right in the middle of that dry, empty dirt road, in the middle of nowhere. The engine made a strange sound, sputtered, choked, and then fell silent as if to say, "That's it, I can't take any more." My husband and I just looked at each other for a second. He let out a quiet curse, slammed his hands on the steering wheel, and stormed out, heading straight for the hood. The heat was brutal, truly. It felt like the sun had come down to play with our patience. I got out of the car slowly, the still hot seat burning the backs of my legs. My dress, which was supposed to be light, was already clinging to my body, damp with sweat. The strap kept slipping and my hair was sticking to the nape of my neck, irritating me even more. I stood there, staring down that road that seemed to have no end, just dirt, dry brush, and a sky so bright it made you squint. I grabbed the water bottle from the back seat. The water was warm, but it wet my mouth and helped a little. He was still tinkering with the car, drenched in sweat, muttering things I didn't even want to hear. For a long time now, the words between us had been reduced to the bare essentials, and even those were heavy with exhaustion. I can't even remember the last time he looked at me the way he used to. Nowadays, it feels like we just share the same roof, and in that moment, the same problem in the middle of nowhere. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of dust and gasoline. And even with everything at a standstill, my chest felt tight, as if something was about to happen. I felt a flutter in my stomach. It wasn't hunger or fear. It was something else, a kind of premonition I couldn't explain. That's when I heard the sound of tires on the dry earth. An old but well-kept pickup truck approached slowly, kicking up a cloud of dust that seemed to dance in the hot air. The sun was hitting the windshield hard, so at first I only saw a silhouette, the outline of someone tall, solid, with an arm hanging out the window and an easy way of driving, like someone who knew this road with their eyes closed. He stopped a few yards ahead, got out of the truck with a calm stride, and walked toward us. The sun behind him made him look like he was glowing. I know it sounds like an exaggeration, but I swear, that's what it felt like. He was wearing a simple, slightly worn-out t-shirt and a baseball cap turned backward. Nothing special. But the way he walked had a quiet confidence, not arrogance, but the certainty of someone who knows exactly where he's stepping. "You folks need some help?" His voice was low, but steady. It wasn't just polite, it was direct. My husband answered before I could say anything. He explained the car trouble, pointed at the engine, talked about his failed attempts to fix it. The stranger listened attentively, but every now and then his eyes would drift to me. Not in a vulgar way. It was different, as if he saw all of me without even needing to touch me. After a quick look at the engine, he gave a simple nod, looking at my husband. "I can give your wife a ride into town. There's a gas station about 15 minutes from here. You'll get a signal there, maybe find some help." My heart gave a lurch. I don't know if it was the shock of the offer or the way he said it. "Your wife." My husband hesitated for a few seconds, looked at me, then at the car, then at the oppressive heat, and finally he said, "Go with him, Flavia. It's better than you staying out in this sun." And I went, without another question, without knowing why, though deep down, maybe I did know. I got into the back of the pickup, not even asking if I could. He had opened the door for me with a quick gesture, without a word. I sat on the opposite side, trying to keep my distance, as if that could prevent something I didn't yet know had already begun. The seat was warm, but it wasn't uncomfortable. There was a faint scent of old leather mixed with something woody, maybe cologne. Not the strong kind you smell at a nightclub, but the kind that clings lightly to the skin and lingers. The truck was simple inside, but clean. And the silence? The silence was almost deafening. He started the engine and we drove on, slowly. The gravel crunched under the tires and the sun still blazed through the windows, painting shadows across the dashboard. He drove with one hand relaxed, as if he had all the time in the world. I pretended to look out the window, but I could feel the weight of his eyes on me in the rearview mirror from time to time. Those short, direct glances that seemed to pierce through your clothes and your thoughts. "You from around here?" he asked suddenly, breaking the silence like someone pushing open a door that was already ajar. I nodded without turning my head. "Yes. My husband was born in this area. We came to visit some relatives. My voice came out dry, as if I needed to justify something he hadn't even asked. He didn't reply. He just smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't give everything away, but says more than it should. "You fit this place," he said, almost a whisper. "You have a way about you, calm but strong." I pretended I didn't understand. I kept looking at the road, but inside, my body wasn't pretending. My skin was growing warm in a different way, and I no longer knew if it was just the sun's heat or his, which had already begun to seep into me. The road seemed to narrow with every curve, as if it were trying to push me closer to him. The truck swayed gently over the loose stones, and with each jolt, my body moved more than I wanted to admit. My dress was slowly riding up my thighs, sticking to my sweaty skin, and for a second, my knees accidentally brushed against the back of the front seat. I pulled back as if the quick touch could burn, but he didn't react. He just kept driving, calm, focused, as if he hadn't noticed. Or maybe he had, and was just waiting for me to notice too. I tried to distract myself, looking at the dry trees outside, at the clear sky, at the rearview mirror, where I met his gaze again. A second? It was only a second, but my stomach flipped, because in that instant, it wasn't just him looking at me. It was as if he was reading everything I was trying to hide. I thought of my husband, of the way he looked at me, or rather, the way he no longer looked, of the promises exchanged in silence at the altar, on the living room couch, on the warm nights we slept with our backs to each other. And I wondered, where did it all go so cold? But here, inside this truck, there was nothing cold, not outside and not inside of me. His scent, that mix of man, road, and something that made you want to breathe deeper, filled every corner, and the more I tried to resist, the more my body responded on its own. My breath grew shorter, my hands tightened on the hem of my dress, my skin prickled without a breeze. And the worst part was, he wasn't doing anything. He didn't touch me, didn't say more than was necessary. But his silence said everything, and every curve in the road was leading me deeper into a place where the words, "I can't," were starting to lose their power. The road grew narrower still, as if we were entering another world, one where only two sounds existed, the low hum of the truck's engine and the frantic rhythm of my own heart. He glanced in the rearview mirror from time to time. It wasn't invasive, not direct, but every time our eyes met there, it was as if the air inside the cab shifted, becoming denser, harder to swallow. "Everything all right back there?" he asked, his tone almost casual. I nodded and tried to smile. "Yes, fine." My voice was thin, as if I'd just woken from a dream. He turned his eyes back to the road, but a slight smile played on his lips. It was almost imperceptible, but I saw it. And that smile seized something inside me. It wasn't just the way he drove. It was the way he noticed me, as if my every movement said something, and he knew how to listen, even in the silence. When I adjusted my dress, when I turned my face, when I rested my hand on my thigh, it felt like he felt it too, without touching, without asking. For a moment, I imagined him stopping the truck right there, turning to me, taking my face in his hands, and saying with his eyes alone, "I know what you want." And the worst part, or the best, was that I might have said yes, not with my mouth, but with my entire body. But he did none of that. He just drove, quiet, steady, and that silence screamed things I had never heard from my own husband. The truck turned off the main road onto an even narrower dirt track and came to a slow stop under a solitary tree. Its trunk was gnarled and dry, but it cast a shadow that seemed placed there just for us. He cut the engine, and the world fell silent with it. No sound, no breeze, only the beat of my heart, which now seemed to pulse in my fingertips. I didn't know if he was going to say something, get out, or open the door, but he just sat there, in the front seat, hand on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the windshield. The silence between us was heavy, not empty, but full full of everything that couldn't be said, and he respected it. He didn't push, didn't ask, didn't turn around. He just remained there, present, solid, as if waiting for an answer I didn't even know I needed to give. My body, on the other hand, was screaming. I could feel my skin vibrating, the fine hairs on my arms standing on end, my thighs tense. The heat outside no longer mattered. The heat was now coming from within, from a place that he, without a single touch, had awakened. That's when he turned his head, slowly, and looked at me. He said nothing. He just looked again, with that same look that seemed to undress me without haste, without shame, without fear. For a second, just one, I almost said, "Go on." I almost opened the door and moved to the front, sat beside him, and let it all happen. Almost. But something held me back. Maybe my husband's name echoing in my mind, maybe the fear of not knowing how to come back from this, maybe the fact that he still hadn't done anything, and yet had already moved my entire world. He was still there, on the other side of the seat, unmoving, but there was something in the air, tense, hot, almost visible, as if the space between us was vibrating. It wasn't a touch of the fingers, it was a touch of the eyes, of presence, and without speaking, he was saying everything. "You okay?" he asked, his voice lower than before. I nodded, but my voice failed before it could form a word. I was more than okay. I was alight. My skin was tingling, my heart was beating out of rhythm, and strangest of all, I felt safe. Desired, yes, but not afraid, because he wasn't crossing any lines. He was just waiting for me to want to cross them. The tree's shadow made patterns on my leg, which was now partially exposed. My dress had ridden up without my noticing, maybe because of how I was sitting, maybe because I was shifting more than I should. My hands, with nowhere to go, rested restlessly in my lap. My breath was slow but heavy. He looked, yes, he looked, but not to devour, not with hurry. It was the look of someone who admires, not someone who takes. And in that instant, for the first time in a very long time, I felt seen, not as a wife, not as a companion, but as a woman, whole, with desire, with fire, with silence and all. "You're beautiful," he let out suddenly, without looking into my eyes, as if he were speaking to himself. And that's when my chest broke open, not because of the compliment itself, but because of the way he said it, with no intention to please, no expectation of a response. It was as if he were simply stating a fact. And that compliment, delivered that way, was the first real touch, because it reached a place in me that had long been forgotten. Time seemed suspended in there. The sun filtered through the gaps in the truck's cab, drawing warm stripes across my skin. I felt each second pass like a step toward something inevitable. And yet, there was no rush. Everything moved at the pace of silence. He turned sideways in the front seat, not quickly, not with tension. It was a calm, almost careful movement. His hand came to rest on the back of the seat, not touching me, but the gesture alone made me hold my breath. I could smell his skin, something between heat and the road, with a light touch of wood and clean sweat. It hit me harder than any word ever could. It was only when our eyes met again that he moved closer. The first touch was almost nothing. His fingers brushed lightly against my hair, pushing away a strand that was stuck to my cheek. But that simple gesture shot through my entire being. My body responded as if it had been waiting for this long before I even knew it. Then came his arm. He rested it there, fingers open, sliding slowly. Not like someone exploring, but like someone showing respect. Every pore on my skin opened at once. The tingling intensified, and my legs tensed on their own. I shivered, not from fear, but from that mix of surprise and surrender. There was no music, no words, yet it felt like everything was speaking. His touch was saying that I could, that here in this moment I wasn't guilty. I was alive, and he felt it. He was reading me, with his hands, with his eyes, with the very air between us. With every inch of skin he touched, something in me let go. Fear, Guilt, routine, promises. It was all falling away. And the back of that pickup truck became a new world, one where desire didn't scream, it only whispered. And even so, it said more than any scream ever could. The world outside no longer existed. There was no road, no sky, no clock marking time, only the soft shadow of the tree, the warm seat of the truck, and our bodies saying what our words would never have the courage to. He moved into the back seat, slowly, as if he knew what was to come required silence, not speed. His eyes met mine, searching for something that wasn't permission, but complicity. And I didn't pull back, didn't tremble. I just took a deep breath and let him. My legs, once held tight by shame, slowly parted. It wasn't a movement. It was a surrender. And when his hand slid between my thighs, there was no resistance left. A different kind of heat bloomed there, damper, more alive. He felt it. I saw it in his eyes. And without a word, he understood. I was ready. His body fit against mine with a startling naturalness. Nothing forced, nothing rushed. He entered me slowly, like someone crossing into a sacred place, with reverence and desire intertwined. I felt the moment he filled me completely, a jolt through my body, a pressure that turned to pleasure, a sensation of being filled not just on the outside, but deep inside, in a part of myself I had long forgotten. There was no scream, only a deep sigh, almost a sob. He held me with his hips, but also with his eyes, with the weight of his chest pressed to mine. It was as if he were saying, "I feel you." And I felt him too. Every movement was slow, deliberate, with pauses that spoke more than any hurried thrust. The heat inside me turned to fire. I lost myself in his rhythm, which alternated between firmness and tenderness, as if he were dancing along the edges of my limits. And when I reached the point where everything inside me trembled, that moment when the body opens and lets go, I didn't recognize myself. It was pleasure, yes, but it was more. It was the ache of pleasure. It was dormant regret. It was freedom in the midst of the forbidden. He stayed there with me, still inside, his forehead pressed to mine, our breaths mingling. I felt his every pulse within me as if it were my own, and for a few eternal minutes, there was no guilt, only truth. I put my dress back on, unhurried but without ceremony. He helped me with a simple, delicate gesture that said everything without a word. There was nothing left to say, and yet the silence now was different. It tasted of the aftermath. I started to get back in the rear, but he gestured to the front seat. "Come here." His voice was low, calm, without insistence. I went. I sat beside him, my dress straightened, my hands folded in my lap, my eyes fixed on the road ahead. My body still thrummed. Between my legs, a warm memory, a living reminder of what had just happened. He started the truck, reversed slowly, and pulled back onto the main road. The dust rose again, but now the road seemed shorter, or maybe it was just time that had shifted inside me. The drive back was silent but not uncomfortable. He didn't try to make conversation or meet my gaze. He respected my silence, the kind of respect that comes after surrender, not the polite kind, but the kind that understands the depth of what was shared. And that touched me in a strange way, because he demanded nothing, he just drove. And I, sitting there, felt more than I ever had before. The wind swept through the open window, cool against my face. I closed my eyes for a few seconds. His scent was still on my neck. My skin was still warm. My breathing, finally slowing. My body was trying to make sense of what had just been. I didn't regret it. But the weight of the choice began to surface, slowly. Not as guilt, but as reality. The road ahead, my husband, the routine waiting for me. I was going back, but I was no longer the same person who had left. When we returned, he was still there, beside the car, his cap on the ground, his face slick with sweat. The hood was open, makeshift tools scattered about. He had the look of a man who just wanted to get it all over with. When he saw the truck, he waved with a half smile. Relief, nothing more. I got out without a word. The door clicked shut with a dry sound, and the dust rose again, reminding me of the road we'd taken. I walked to my husband, and he gave me a light hug, the kind that checks if you're all right. There was no kiss, no deep question, just a customary touch. "Did you get a signal?" he asked. "No, but the road was beautiful," I answered without thinking. He laughed, a little distracted, and went back to tinkering with the engine. He thanked the other man with a quick nod, without really looking him in the eye, and I stood there, between the two of them, my soul miles away. A piece of me was still inside that truck, still feeling the heat in my body, still hearing sighs in the dark. He didn't notice, and perhaps he never will. Perhaps he thinks it was just another ordinary afternoon, another car breakdown, another helping hand from a stranger. But inside me, everything had changed. I looked at him and saw the same as always, the same tone of voice, the same way he gripped the wrench, the same automatic, "Are you hungry?" And I realized that, for a long time, that had been enough. But now it wasn't. It wasn't about the betrayal. It was about having felt, and no one can take that away from me. The truck started up again. The sound of the engine grew more distant. I stood there, my feet on the dirt, my eyes fixed on the truck as it pulled away. He didn't speed off. He drove slowly, like someone who knows they're leaving something important behind. Or someone. At the last bend in the dirt road, just before the tall grass hid the truck from view, he looked back. He didn't turn his head, just his eyes, in the rearview mirror. 1 second. A single second. But it was enough to pierce me through. It was a clean look. No promise, no demand, no drama. Only truth. The same truth he had carried the whole time. He saw me, he felt me, he had me, without holding me. I felt a tightness in my chest, the kind that comes before tears, but without the release. A faint dizziness in my legs, as if I were surfacing from a dive that was too deep. The air felt different, heavier. Or maybe it was just me. I felt fuller. I turned my eyes back to my husband, who was still working on the engine as if nothing had happened. As if I were the same woman who had climbed out of that truck 2 hours ago. But I wasn't. That bend in the road took with it a piece of what I had hidden, an old desire, a silence that had lasted too long, a courage I didn't know I possessed, and as much as I knew it would never happen again, I also knew this. Forgetting was no longer an option. He passed through me, and he took with him everything my body had screamed, even without a voice,